The Smoking Glass Hour believes in giving back and giving credit where credit is due. Our number one goal is to make a difference. The music you hear on the Smoking Glass Hour comes from Purple Planet Music. They can be found at www.purple-planet.com. Go check them out.
We can be most effective when we are engaged in the political process, and there's no time like the present. One of our main goals is effective advocacy through active participation from you. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Our efforts to keep you engaged and informed as to the importance of current events happening locally and abroad started 2 years ago. Our number one goal is to make a difference. We need you. Join us at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Catch us at www.thesmokingglasshour.com.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
We need you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. On tonight, we will be talking getting politically active with 5-point plan with our guest tonight, Mr. David Lamont. But before I introduce David, I want to say that I hope everybody that's out there listening tonight is looking at how much of a coward Donald Trump is by not going to the debate. It has been said that the actual candidate must always go and talk to the voter. And I have always believed that if the candidate cannot face the voter unscripted, then that person does not deserve the vote of the public. So when you start to evaluating tonight, what if Mr. Trump, and I don't even think he deserves to be called Mr., but I'm going to call him that. What if he had to deal with Vladimir Putin or Muammar Gaddafi or some of these other people that do not give a flip about how much money he has because they have just as much money, if not all. So tonight, we're going to talk about what's going on in the political world. Mr. David Lamont is a movie buff, anime fan, political junkie, science geek, skeptic, history buff, gadget guru, U.S. Navy veteran, college graduate, and he's married. A bit about his politics is David says he used to be called something like a centrist. He was a right-leaning Republican and often voted for GOP candidates. His first president to vote for was George Bush, the vice president, George Bush. He was happy being a fiscal centrist and a social libertarian until about 1995, when the Congress played politics in the political games with our country. A very short years later, impeaching a sitting president over, guess what? A BLOW job. Before the 1980s, the GOP was a party of the people. It was about true tax fairness, true civil rights, and not a party of military intervention. After the impeachment until about 2004, he tended to vote Democrat or Libertarian. No Republican got his vote. He would have voted for McCain in 2000. So after the angry period, he looked at the issues very carefully and found himself still not able to vote for a Republican. In 2008, he left the Republican Party and went independent and vote based on the facts of the individual person. David says that I am not anti-corporate or anti-government, though I do find myself at odds sometimes with these individual statuses. I listen to science and reason and not the hype. So that explains a lot about David. Now, when you look at a lot of other things, David says that he's very observant, and well, there's a reason why. Okay, he says that we put too much emphasis on these things. His formal education and all of those things are a part of David's life. He also says he often hears attacks, stating that only a business owner or a landowner can know risk, and so on. So to avoid all of that, he just do not mention those things. He takes his facts and his writings, and they can go to HELL. With educating people often infer themselves as credible experts on subjects to appear to win debates without actually debating. So again, he leaves that out of his background. He says that he is a blogger check fact for real information, and do not attempt to undermine a debate by inferring your background just happens to match what we are talking about. We can't prove these claims of being a rich business owner that is an expert in what you are arguing about, so don't try and sell it to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Lamont. David, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fine, David. You know, since the other night, I believe it was Sunday night, I have actually been looking forward to this particular conversation. And I hope and know that all of those individuals that joined the conversation the other night, as well as past nights, will hopefully join us tonight and listen to what you have coined yourself, the 5-point plan. So, David, before we get off into that 5-point plan about getting politically involved, tell us anything else that I may have failed to mention in the introduction that you'd like the listeners to know.
Really, you got me down pretty good. This is the bio that I have on my blog site. So, it comes from my own personal feelings. I try to leave myself out of debates as much as possible and just try to debate the facts that are before us and not try to make arguments from authority. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes does happen with individuals when they get into debates. It's like, whose checkbook is bigger, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's the emphasis of how I carry on political discourse with people.
David, I know that you see all of these things that I see and other people see. When you look at all of this, all of the things that are going on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, Facebook, and anywhere else that people can get their group together and start to either attack with baseless information or with, I'm going to say, lack of knowledge with regards to what the subject matter is. Let me ask you this. So when you look at what you see that's going on, how have you seen things changed over the last few years?
Oh, that's very simple. Like I said, I used to consider myself right-leaning, right of center. Mm-hmm. And that was in a time when I think the center was further left than it is right now. Mm-hmm. The corporate media is basically trying to sell us a narrative that liberal and conservative are in the same places they've always been historically. And my argument against that is I've seen the line move. So I have not really changed my opinions over the years, except when the facts dictate it. But I have seen the measure, the bar where center is. I have seen that move further and further to the right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we know that for whatever reason, people find themselves either on the left or the right, in most cases controlled by, sometimes just because of being a part of the party, but not necessarily a part of what the true facts are. So when we look at what's going on now in 2016's presidential election, what is it that you see, David, that disheartens you the most? And what is it that you'd like to see change? And then when we talk about the change, we're going to get off into the 5-point plan of getting politically active, according to David Lamont.
All right. Well, the key issue in this election and any elections before we can ever fix this is money in politics. That, I believe, is my central issue, because I think everything stems from that. I mean, we've got a group of billionaires who are spending as much money as a singular political party is on electing people of their ilk, people who will follow their guidelines. And that is not what an active democracy, or a republic, if you want to use that term, that's not what this is about. Every person should be an individual vote, and no more and no less. The size of your wallet should not dictate your power in the political process.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is we have to get money out of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is secondary to that. And the key to that is what we're going over, education, and how people can get active in their busy lives.
Okay, so getting money out of politics. Do you feel, as I do, that the most recent hand down by the United States Supreme Court, Citizens United, did that make what we're talking about tonight worse, better, about the same?
It made it worse, and there was actually 2 Supreme Court cases which are relevant to this. That's Buckley versus Vallejo and Citizens United. Buckley versus Vallejo was back in the 70s, where Justice Powell people with a lot of money should be their money should be considered speech, and that memo, the Powell memo, and your listeners can look it up, is the key to where we are today. Because in that decision, after Nixon had appointed him onto the Supreme Court, we got Buckley versus Vallejo, which granted certain constitutional rights to corporations, and then that was put into overdrive by Citizens United more recently.
And David, so when we look at this 5-point plan, we know that we have talked about we need a movement, we need a revolution, change, because the status quo, the establishment, and all of those people that have been out there for many years, including some of the policies that have been handed down from whatever party a person chooses to look at. So when we look at Field of Bernie Sanders, who has been called everything under the sun. I watched him the other night, and they asked him the question, well, what do you call a socialist? And he came back and he answered specifically what he felt a democratic socialist was, which was totally opposite of what they are titling it. So when we look at politics as a whole, do you feel that mainstream media and all of these other established individuals, established corporations, established agencies, their number one goal is to distort the message and divide the people? How do you feel about that?
Well, it upsets me greatly, because this is the means at which most people get their information from. Now we're seeing a shift in people moving to more social media and other formats like what we're doing now, like our blogging, like YouTube, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So they're starting to lose their grip. But we have to acknowledge still that the corporate media has a stranglehold on the way we get information.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to work around that. We have to come up with ways that people can get informed and educated despite this type of media assault that we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as a left or right media, not in the corporate world. It's a corporate media structure.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernie Sanders is one of those political outsiders, and that's why we see the miscategorization of his positions and what he says constantly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, David, you noted that you are a blogger and you check your facts for real information, for real public discourse, and for fundamental differences. For those who are out there listening now live, or for those who may go back and listen to the archives, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, so forth and so on, what is it, David, that people can do? Because we've already stated and agreed that mainstream media is doing whatever it is that they can do. So how can people educate themselves so they can get the specific facts, and when they do hear this out on mainstream media or in a conversation that mainstream media basically controls, what is it that you feel they can do to get themselves better adjusted to what reality is and the facts?
Well, it basically boils down to how much time a person can devote, say, per week to getting informed. As you know, politics is an overwhelming subject to many people, and most people just don't have time. They deal with bills from their phone company that are 5 pages long, their cable bill, which is 3 pages long. You have your work you do every day. You have your children, your family to take care of. There's not enough time in the day to become politically astute. So what I've tried to think about is different types of time frames people can work and educate themselves and others. So I've come up with 3 different time frames. There's minimal time. This is like a few minutes a day or an hour a week. And then moderate amount of time, which would be a few hours a week. And then the maximum time, which is an hour or more per day. So if you'd like, we can start with the minimal amount of time and go over the 5 things that people can do a few minutes every day or up to an hour a week.
I'll tell you, David, we timed this perfect. We're looking at about 8:18 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, tonight joined by Mr. David Lamont, getting politically active with his 5-point plan. So, David, talk to us about the first point in your plan, and we'll go plan by plan, and then we'll discuss it. And at some point, we'll bring in anybody else that's out there on the lines or would like to chat with us live and talk about the 5-point plan. Mr. David Lamont, point number 1.
All right. So, with a few minutes a day or up to an hour a week, basically talk to 5 people in a week's time period. This can be in person, on the phone, even social media. Many of us have more friends on Facebook and Twitter than, we do physically. Give them an opinion on a topic that you hold dear to you, whatever your key topic is. So that's the first idea that I have in the plan. 5 people a week, 1 topic. Then secondly, what you do is you take about 5 minutes a day. Pick an article that's not from a mainstream media source. Find an alternate place, whether you go to townhall.com if you're on the right, or Talking Point Memos if you're a centrist, or if you go to Daily Kos if you're on the left. Find an article about a topic that you're passionate about. Take 5 minutes to read it. This gives you and others a bare minimum education in your particular topic. And this is something that you can change your topic from week to week, and it requires a minimal amount of time. This is something that we all can do.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at. That's our minimal time area.
Okay, David, just to make sure that everybody out there is able to take notes and put this down so they can go back in their spare time and look at it. Go over point 1 and point 2 once again, if you don't mind.
Pick a topic, talk to 5 people a week. And then number 2, take 5 minutes a day to read an article not from a mainstream media source, something that you're passionate about. And that's the first minimal step.
Okay, so David, if we're talking about what someone is passionate about, let's look at let's say if you're a senior citizen, what are some of the things that you feel senior citizens are passionate about, and just give them a couple of examples, because some, like I said, politics can be boring to some, but to you and I, it's very fascinating, it's very learning, and it's very educational. So some people may have the idea, but they just can't get the battery started without putting some booster cables on it. So what I'm asking you to do is be the booster cable tonight and give them some type of feedback that they might be able to go off of with regards to something that they are passionate about. Senior citizen, for example.
All right. Well, that's a good one. We could take Social Security, for instance. This is something that tends to affect almost every senior citizen. And one of the something that they could go into basics about is the fact that Social Security did not receive a cost of living adjustment for this year. Mm-hmm. It was not voted and it was not passed. So that, to me, affects the checkbook of our senior citizens. They have less buying power than they did the previous year. So in a sense, you could say that they had a cut in their Social Security benefits via the fact that that cost of living wasn't done. So you can look up an article from the Social Security Administration or from some of the other sites that I had mentioned before, mm-hmm. and find something concerning the cost of living adjustment and point out how that has been affecting senior citizens.
Mm-hmm. And David, I'll tell you, one just popped in my mind because me and a very good friend of mine, a very special friend, we were talking the other day. And at one time, Louisiana did not expand Medicare, Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Now, as a result of the new elected governor, John Bel Edwards, he issued an executive order that expanded health care. So there may be some people that's out there now who may have been basically neglected or rejected months ago, but they have until, I believe, the 31st of this month, 30th or 31st of this month, where they can go back in and possibly become eligible. So that is another specific area that a person could take and share that with 5 people in the 5-point plan and talk to them, because there's a lot of people that's going to be penalized because they just don't know where to start and where to go. So I thank you for providing that information on the issue that you gave.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at plan number 2.
All right. This is for people who have a little bit more time than a few minutes a day. We'll say about 5 hours a week. From the minimal time period, excluding any kind of overlap. So you want to talk to 5 people about a topic, but you actually want to try and engage them, have them talk back to you. Mm-hmm. And that's the next step. Try to get them to understand what is going on.
Hey, David.
Without taking too much time. Yeah.
Question while you're on that. Because a lot of people don't understand what engagement is. They don't really know the concept of engagement. So let's say you have somebody on the left and somebody on the right, or 2 people in the middle, or 1 in the middle and 1 on the right, 1 in the middle and 1 on the left. Tell us, give us a good classic example of what engagement is with regards to the facts, not arguing, not fussing, not fighting, not losing friendship. Give us a classic example of what you think engagement is based on the 5-point plan.
Probably one of the easiest ways would be to just ask the question. I heard that the cost of living increase in Social Security was 0 this year. What is your opinion on it? Please send me comments below. Mm-hmm. And it could be something just as simple as that. It's not taking a side on the issue.
Right.
It's just trying to find out where people in your circle stand on an issue. And that could be any topic that you feel passionate about. Mm-hmm. Medicaid expansion, civil rights, women's rights, LGBT issues, mm-hmm. anything that's comfortable to you that you want to engage in the dialogue, and just ask a plain question. Mm-hmm. Try not to make it too loaded. Make it as simple as possible to get someone to answer, so that you can find out where they sit on the scale of education and where they sit on the political spectrum. And that's kind of one of the better ways of doing things.
Well, and I'll tell you, David, and the reason why I'm trying to be very casual about it, is because you see on Facebook or social media or wherever you look at. You see people trying to have a conversation, but before it's over with, there's a big debate. There's a heated discussion. People are saying things that they don't really mean out of emotion. So what I'm trying to do is give some specific instances. And what you basically said is this. It's rather than make a statement or a command or a gesture that may look or appear to be a command, just ask a simple question by way of a simple gesture in the form of a question. And that way, did you hear that Social Security was cut? Or have you been notified? Something like that. Because, again, our goal here, David, is to inform, engage, and inspire people to get involved. So when we look at engagement, do you feel that people, whether they're on the left or the right, the middle or whatever case may be, do you feel, David, that we have enough engagement going on now, or people are just too complacent, they're in their own circle and they just choose not to get involved? What do you think?
Well, I think the people that want to get involved might be, and I'm guilty of this too, and they might be a little leans a little more towards their actual opinion than the facts of the issue. And like I said, I'm guilty of this too. As for most people, I don't think most people engage even in things that they feel passionate about. And it's so much easier today than it ever has been. I mean, you could just type a few words onto Twitter and have an engaged conversation with people that you know, and so often we pass up that opportunity.
Right.
And again, it's because we are all so busy. There are other things to do, and there's just not enough time in the day to do these sort of things. But if you try to approach it from, taking little steps at a time, you'll find yourself probably digging deeper and deeper until you devote more time to these things.
So if we look at a classic example where you have people that's on your Facebook page and you pretty much have a good relationship with that person or those people, would you say that let's take how do you feel about the presidential election, not taking sides, kind of basically clarify what it is that you're asking and saying, and then invite or tag people that you feel can have a decent and orderly conversation. Maybe even put your rules that's there, what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate. And if a person get outside of that, you let them know that they violated. You're going to give them a chance. And if they come back and continue to violate, then you just delete them. Do you feel like that could get people involved? Because that's the goal, David, right tonight, is to get people involved in the 2016 election, not just the federal, not just the state, but the most important election, which is the local election. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a very good way. If you aren't as comfortable as some people are speaking out about these things, it's okay to put yourself in a bubble for a little while. I do urge people to step out of that. If you're in an echo chamber, it's going to be the same thing over and over again. But I do encourage people to stick with people that they know and agree with politically, at least at first, so that they can start learning how to have discourse with people that agree with them, and then they can move on to people that may not agree with them.
David, do you feel that because a lot of people are just, I'm not going to say afraid, some are, but some just uncomfortable because politics is like a religion. It's like beliefs, and some people just prefer not to engage. But we're not talking about the specifics. We're talking about just doing something to strike a conversation, because there might be something that somebody on the left may know, and I'm not talking about Democrat or Republican, I'm talking about as far as a figure on the left that can give you or offer you something on the right. So how do we relate this right here to your 5-point plan when we're talking about engagement and getting people politically involved with politics?
Well, by asking questions and getting input from the 5 people, you are opening yourself up to a myriad of opinions. Because there's an old saying: if you put 10 of anybody in a room, you get 10 different opinions.
Okay.
Good
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
No, you put 10 Democrats in a room, you're going to get 10 different opinions
Right.
on any kind of policy. Same with Republicans, same with religious people. It doesn't matter what kind of core thing pulls you together. And the core thing we're talking about is people in your circle, which are friends and acquaintances. And just asking simple questions, getting their input. This is for people who are just putting their foot into the water of politics. It's not, something that we're talking about people who, live and breathe this stuff or find it a hobby, anything like that. So stick your foot in that water. Talk to 5 people. Find out what kind of opinions the people around you share. Because if there's one thing that people love to do on Twitter and Facebook particularly is give you an opinion. So I think that just start asking questions to people that they know. Find out as much as you can. And, you go back to reading articles and with this new time frame, a few hours a week, read 5 articles a day, again, about topics that you want or are passionate about. You don't have to go outside of that just yet because you don't have a whole lot of time, but you want to be informed on things that you find passionate. The way that you're going to be able to carry on the conversation past that initial engagement.
Right.
You've got to start educating yourself, and by devoting that little bit more time, you're bringing yourself more into your topic, your comfort zone, and you're learning how to engage other people by doing it.
Okay, we're looking at about 8:33 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to Mr. David Lamont getting politically active with his 5-point plan on the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. David, we've given out, I believe, 2 of the 5-point plan. Let's go to number 3 because I want to make sure that we get it out and then at least able to discuss it and how we can apply this to day-to-day lives, how we can actually start this movement, this revolution that we've talked about, not just here live on the broadcast, but on Blab when we do the live video broadcast. And we ask that everybody come and join David and I. We talk about some very, very, very interesting subjects. So, David, let's go to number 3 and hit number 4, number 5. Then we'll come back and talk about it.
All right. So, a clarification: these levels that I'm talking about, I've only got 3 levels, but basically the theme is 5 things in each of these levels.
Okay.
So this is the last one here, and this is the maximum time. This is an hour or more per day. This is the person who has finally gotten to the point where they have a good amount of time to become politically active. So one of the things that you would want to do if you have this kind of time or if you have this kind of passion is you can make audio, video, or written concepts about any of these topics that you enjoy and pass them on to, again, 5 people. And that could be, podcasting, that could be doing YouTube, that could be doing a blog. Any of those kinds of things are a great way. You can also pick up the phone and actually just talk to 5 people you know about these topics that you're engaged in. So that's like your first step in the maximum politically active frame.
Right.
The second thing would be... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm saying right. Go ahead.
Okay. So the second thing you want to do is, again, you want to read 5 articles a day. I prefer people not go to the mainstream media sources, but now what you want to do is you want to start moving out of your bubble. You want to start going with topics that you're not familiar with. You want to expand your knowledge and expand the base from which you're able to have discourse with people, because now you're putting your thoughts out there for people to see, read, or hear. And as I said before, people love to make comments on the internet. They're going to get back to you on this. So you want to start expanding your knowledge. You want to start being able to engage people on topics that you may not be familiar with or even comfortable with. And I would encourage people at this stage to be able to do stuff like that.
And David, we noticed in the bio, you were on one side of the political spectrum, and you've seen some things that you were just not comfortable with, so you decided to go in another direction. Let me ask you this. For those who are out there who feel like they are stuck to any party, regardless as to whether it's Republican or Democrat, what is it that you would advise them if they know that they just do not belong there? What can you tell them to inspire and encourage them to have the courage to just simply leave the party and find somewhere where they are comfortable and where they feel like that's the best representation or the best philosophy that they can find that meshes with their philosophy or their beliefs?
Well, I like to follow in my life evidence as much as possible, evidence and proof. So when I began questioning what my party was doing, and that tended to form around the time of impeachment, I sat there and thought to myself, was this the kind of way I wanted my party to govern us? And I had to say honestly to myself that I found in this particular case with impeachment, and that was my key turning point, that my party was beginning to move away from me. I don't consider my opinions having shifted too much. I have changed my mind on a couple of issues, but not greatly. I don't think that I've moved myself past past the centrist line all that often. I know some people would argue that, but that's their opinion.
Right, and that's fine.
It's just that turning point.
Yeah, that's fine. And the thing about it is we find, David, that people are just absolutely turned off. And the way I see it is that it's okay to be momentarily turned off, but you can't stay long-lasting turned off, because what you do is that when you do not vote and you allow other people to go and vote for you, you are allowing that person or those people to make decisions for you that directly affect you when you can go out and voice your opinion yourself. So when we look at the 5-point plan, how can we get younger people more involved? How can we get the senior citizens and the elderly to understand that there cannot be a disconnect between the younger generation and the older generation, that voting, the concept of voting and the right to vote should be a priority? And how can we get it to where we can make it a priority with regards to maybe school systems, local school boards, and so forth and so on, to get that message out?
Well, that brings me to another point. If you have a lot of time to devote to that, is you should contact people who represent you, and that could be members of the school board, that could be your state representative, governor, congressional representative, senator. You can write letters to the president, all of those kinds of things. And again, this is if you have that kind of time to devote that, because when you call these people, they may only do things like, are you for or against the topic at hand? Mm-hmm. You tend to at least take that down, and some politicians are better than others and may actually listen to it if enough people get involved. So if you found 5 people that are passionate about a topic, all of you should contact people who are in government to enact these policies. A good example is on the Colbert Report and last week with John Oliver. He did a segment on the FCC rules concerning net neutrality, and he encouraged his viewers to write in to the FCC. And I did that. I wrote a letter to Tom Wheeler telling him that I wanted to have net neutrality. And we the people spoke, and we the people got the change. Now ISPs are common carrier. So as apathetic as politics can appear to be, it doesn't take much. It just takes something you're passionate about and a little bit of effort, and you can affect a change. This is how we do things, and you can do it at every level. Go to a town hall meeting, write to a representative, go to a school board meeting. that's how you can make change.
Mm-hmm. Because when you look at your child or your grandchild regarding local school municipalities, we know that the policies and procedures that people have to deal with, they are basically implemented by those elected individuals that serve on the school board. So, in my opinion, David, it's very important for a parent. If you have a child in school or a grandchild, you should be the number one on the front line, because people need to make sure that they understand what it is that might affect the child or grandchild. So it's imperative. Local city council, local police bureaus if you're in the parish, local mayor's offices, local sheriff's office, because you can actually touch those individuals, but you will have a slim chance to ever talk to the president, vice president, maybe even your United States Senator, United States Congress, or whatever. So the point is that we know that people must get involved and join this plan. And if you're talking about 5 people, David, you can take a mother and a father, and you can take, if they have 3 kids, that's 5 conversations, 5 people giving their opinions, and at the end of the day, there's going to either be some middle of the road or some common ground, and you take it from those 5, and then you go out to your peers or your co-workers or whatever the case may be, and they're basically doing what you said, wouldn't you think?
Exactly. The key after you've accomplished these things, if you do your 5 things, encourage these people that you contact, these people you connect with, to also do that sort of thing. And, you know, at the end of the month, you're a millionaire. It's the same thing. 5 people, have them engage 5 people, and just make the chain, make the web expand, make it expand, and pretty soon you are a movement. And this is exactly what, candidates like Sanders is talking about. He's talking about a movement. And I encourage people of any political stripe to create your movement, get your opinion out there. Let's have the people, all of us, debate the issues, not who MSNBC or Fox News picks, but let's all come together and debate our topics.
Right. And David, as well as I do, all means everybody. Diverse groups, diverse backgrounds from all different walks of life. Not all meaning the 1%, or all meaning those who are rich and exclude other people. Because yourself, when we bring all of these people in under the tent at the table of love, we start to making things look different. Because when David Lamont comes on, a white Anglo-Saxon male, and he starts talking about the things that are dear and near to his heart, and then he starts to telling me about his experiences in life, well, guess what? I begin to understand why you think the way you think, and in return, when I do the same as you've done, you understand how I think and why I think that way based on my experiences in life. And at that point, we either find middle of the road or common ground. So I think what you're saying is that it is very beneficial to come from outside, from within your own confines, your own comfort zone, and just get out there and talk to people, but make sure that your facts are not baseless. Make sure that you've done great fact checking, and I believe, David, you gave some websites that people can go that are neutral, people just providing information, because we know that Fox News, MSNBC, and a lot of these other places, they are becoming more corrupt by the day. So how can we offset the mainstream media and try to bring the conversation more in line with the people of the country?
Well, I think one of the ways to do is anytime you source something, try to find out what's behind that source. Like if you go to townhall.com, which is a right-leaning source, they have an about page. The about page tells you who they are. you should read these things. These things are important. It tells you their mission statement. If you go to Daily Kos, look at their about page. Find out who they are. Don't just read the articles and agree or disagree with it. Find out who they are. That's your way of engaging and finding out exactly where you fit in the spectrum. And there's lots of different news sites. There are lots of radio programs. There are lots of internet programs. And every single one of them, the person who is running it or the people running it tell you who they are. And whether you or not you want to accept that on a firm basis or not, that is up to you. I mean, it's an opinion thing. Again, I like to I like to engage in facts as much as possible. But it gives me a sense, and you can, as you've read enough of these about pages, you can get a sense of who it is you're reading every day. And that is key, that's a big key way to talk about, to take in information. You understand where it's coming from. You understand what their bent is. And you may find the center different than where I may find the center, and that's fine. So some articles you may find are right-leaning or left-leaning depending on where you see yourself at. But it's important to know who it is that you're taking this information from, because without that, you might as well turn on the TV, sit in front of it, and just take that for granted. Mm-hmm. Because those people are not telling you who they are. Mm-hmm. You go to these corporate websites, you don't understand who they are because they don't really talk about it.
I'll tell you, David, I'm sitting here thinking. Let's take, we go with your 5-point plan to 5. Okay, we take 5 people. Let's say we take 5 people regardless as to what party they may be. Well, they can take their cell phones at a coffee shop or whatever the case may be, out there at a park, and they can call 5 people that they feel that basically side with them and ask them, have they gotten registered to vote? Will they need a ride to the poll? Is there any issues that they don't understand? Can they get involved? Because volunteering is one of the greatest things that a person can do when it comes to getting involved in a campaign. Because if your candidate wins, then you have this sense of pride. If your candidate does not prevail, then you can say that you did everything that you could do, but the majority of the people have spoken, but you still played a role in the process. How do you think about that, David?
Well, for example, just yesterday, one of my friends contacted me about a video that former Labor Secretary Robert Reich put up, and it was about Bernie Sanders skepticism. And he asked me if I had seen this video and if I had done any kind of analysis or if I would, and get back to him. So I looked at the video and I wrote back to him and told him, the points that I agreed and disagreed and gave my reasons for it. So now he's able to take the opinions that I gave him and the sources that I cited from that and use that video to engage with his friends. So that's a direct example of how you can do these things.
Well, exactly. So when we look at a lot of this, David, that we're talking about tonight, we have a reason to become inspired. We have a reason to get engaged. And we have a reason to go out and make a difference. And you make a difference by getting involved. You can't make a difference by being a cheerleader on the side unless you are encouraging other people. You can't score a bucket unless you get in a game. So what is it, David, that you would like to see people doing with regards to this presidential election coming up in 2016, whether it's for Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, whoever else that's out there running? What is it that you'd like to see?
Well, it all comes down to one of 3 things. You either are a person who wants a change election, a status quo election, or you want to elect a Republican. And that's my basic take on it. And someone like a change election, And that could even apply to Donald Trump. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, I would consider people voting for them to be members of the change election. These are two candidates who want to turn over the table and say, this with things that are outside the normal realm. And the status quo election people are people who, Clinton has said herself that she basically represents the third term of President Obama. This is the position that she took going into Iowa here coming up. And that I consider more the status quo type of candidate. With things like Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush. These are conventional establishment individuals in their party. And you can predict the kinds of things that they are likely to do because they like to maintain the status quo. And that's the two sides that you basically have to pick. There are candidates in both things. There are change candidates and there are status quo candidates in both parties. So whatever your political bent is, you have a change in our country, or do you want things to go basically the way they are now? And that's the first question you have to ask yourself when you're picking a candidate.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, David, last hour, it allows people to understand that there are media outlets that's out there that do not have a problem. They promote, like we do, different types of conversation, casual conversation, about something that we feel passionate about. We all should have a right to talk about what matters to us, because what I see from where I sit, somebody else may not see from where they sit. So we have to be able to open up these lines of communication. So what I'm going to do now, David, we're looking at about 8:55 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Tonight, talking to Mr. David Lamont, getting politically active with his 5-point plan. Do we have any callers out there right now who would like to engage in the conversation? You may do so at this time. Any callers that like to address David, myself, talk about something that are dear to them or whatever the case may be. We're talking tonight about getting politically active. Any callers out there who'd like to talk? What I do, David, is give that option and allow the call. We know that there are callers out there because we can see the lines open, and we do not force people to talk. We're glad that they are joining in. I just got a message. Was there someone trying to talk? Hello? Hello, caller? Hello? Okay, well, David, I'm not sure if they're trying to talk or not. What we'll do is we'll continue to engage. So when we look at this next 6 or 7 months, David, how do you think February the 1st, I believe starting next Monday or Tuesday, the Iowa caucuses are going to go, and what is it that you're going to be doing from now until November, not just now in November, but from here on out with regards to local elections, state election, and federal elections?
Well, right now for the presidential election, I recorded videos for the leading Iowa candidates on both sides, and it's what I call the 5x5. And what I do in that is I take 5 good aspects and 5 bad aspects. So I kind of do that. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both. There you have the candidate we're talking about. That's the tag, kind of the tag. This week, through the rest of the week, before the Iowa caucuses. Afterwards, I'm going to do a show based on the results of the Iowa caucuses and some of my predictions going further from there. And as we go along, I'm going to be working down ballot to find out what candidates in my state and in my city that I do support, and start working toward finding out more information from them and maybe even engaging in that with them.
Mm-hmm. David, we know that we are just having a lot of bloggers, a lot of blabs, a lot of live topics. We are trying to overtake mainstream media, not trying to become overnight successes, not trying to outdo Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, Tavis Smiley, or any of those other people. What we're doing is we're bringing other voices to the conversation. We know that David Lamont has some things going on out there with his blogging and things of that nature. David, give us some of your specific information, your website, your blogging, and things like that. Did someone say hello? Did we have a call? Hello, caller.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Caller, you're talking tonight to Mr. David Lamont, getting politically active with your 5-point plan. Go ahead, caller.
I'd like to talk about Donald Trump.
Okay, goes right ahead.
I'd like to get your opinion on Donald Trump.
Get my opinion on Donald Trump? David, I'll tell you what. Because I'm going to be very brutal. I'll give you the opportunity, since you're the guest tonight, to talk about Donald, and then I'll come back and give my evaluation of what I think about Donald Trump. Go ahead, David.
Oh, certainly. I think Donald Trump is a very shrewd candidate. He may come off crass, but I think for instance, his skipping of the debate tonight, I think that was actually more of a tactic than a tantrum, as many people might see. Because one of the interesting things about this is we know that going into Iowa, Reagan, and that was a very clever tactic.
Greatest president of all time.
Yes.
Who was the greatest president of all time?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan is he thinking?
Now that.
Tactic I see Donald doing is, I think he's trying to get the people at the debate to attack Ted Cruz. If he's not there, people can focus on who the front runner is there. It's a clever plan, and it might actually shave off a few more points, because as it stands right now, he looks like, at least from polling, that he's going to take Iowa. So he's looking at the idea that throwing this, quote, tantrum is in the debate. And it also deflects some of the attacks that he may get in the debate, which could hurt him going into Iowa. So I think it's actually well thought out by Donald Trump. And I'm not trying to underestimate him. I don't think he's but he's a very clever candidate when it comes to the way he's running his campaign.
David, the devil was clever himself. I speak just like Donald Trump, and I don't bite my tongue. I don't have anything good for this guy. I think he's a coward. I think he's a manipulator, and I think his number one goal is to divide the discourse that has been out there for the last 7 years. Now, what I will say is this. I do like John Kasich. I think he is a mild, moderate Republican that could bring people to the forefront. I was talking to somebody else today about this. I think I wouldn't vote for Jeb Bush, but should he win, I think he would be tolerable. I think he would do some things. I think he would try his very best to bring people in. I think because I am an elected official for 23 years, even today. I think when you're running for office, the worst thing that you can do is not face the voters. It's like a job. You are filling out a resume when you are going to those debates. So when you do not go for those debates, when you do not go and fill out a resume, it's hard to get a job if you don't go for the interview. Now, I do think Donald Trump, he's very, very clever. He knows his audience, and he's very specific to what he does. Now, Donald is like me. I can walk into a room and I can find 50 people that I can relate to, and I can get those 50 people to follow me, even though I know that the other 50 that's in the room may be totally different. Now, I give him credit for that. But now, when we look at uniting the country, I don't think he can unite because of his positions on some of the, and then the guy is really not politically savvy. Business-wise, I'll give him a little credit, but I think I give him credit and courage for having the gall to get out there and run, because when you run for office, I'll tell you, it's the hardest thing to do, because you have to try to strike a balance with everybody. I'm wishing every individual candidate that's out there graced by God, that they be blessed. Nothing happens to them, no matter how extreme to the left or how extreme to the right. I disagree with the personal attacks and things like that. I really don't want those guys or the ladies to get hurt, because I am an American and I know what they're going through. They're just going through on a larger level. So I do support him and all those other guys that's out there running. I would like to see, honestly, if possible, another candidate to emerge, whether it's Republican or Democrat, that can actually get us over the hump, so we can start trying to unite more so than we are now. So that's my commentary on Mr. Trump. We got another call out there. Caller, you got another comment that you want to make on Trump or one of the other candidates that's out there? You may do so.
I have another question. I would like to know how America is going to support $19 trillion on Bernie Sanders' plan if he gets elected. How do they sustain that, $19 trillion?
I'll tell you, David, I'll go with that. I do know that some of the things that Bernie is saying, Dr. Riggins, Pastor Riggins and I, we were talking about this the other night, because he called me. He said, Barron, I really would like for you, I'm not 100% in objection to Bernie, but there are some things that he's saying that I'm not sure what he means, because it's not well explained. Classic example. Pastor Riggins was saying that he don't feel that every kid should be able to go to college for free, because there are some kids who are not going to college. There are some kids who can afford college. So he was wanting him to explain some of those things more so. So, caller, I do sympathize and I understand what you're saying. I think it needs to be more clarity to that. And if the clarity does not meet up with the facts, then I think that's a flawed position for Mr. Sanders to take. What do you think about that, David?
Well, I've discussed this topic before, and the $19 trillion is a misleading figure to start with. And I do expect Bernie Sanders to be more specific in his plan as time goes by. But we do know the presidential candidates don't always have a lot of details ready and available for people to peruse until well into the election, and sometimes even later than that. I mean, we've had candidates who have said things like, well, I'll tell you my plan. Donald Trump, for instance, I'll tell you my plan after I've been elected. You know, Hillary Clinton is guilty of this a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. So specifically on Bernie Sanders' plan, the $19 trillion is an actual factual number, but it doesn't take into account that many of the other candidates would actually balloon the deficit even more. I mean, when we look at Medicare alone, the Medicare savings over... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The Medicare savings alone are $5 trillion over the next 5 years. And yes, we have to be honest, he is raising taxes on everybody. But you're not going to be paying Kaiser Permanente, United, Cigna, any of those people any money anymore. So you actually save a little bit of money. And when we have single payer, we have better negotiating capabilities, and then we all save money. And the projections are around $5 trillion saved from what we are currently spending on health care. So you have to look at that number and break it down and find out what the actual breakdown is per program. Now, Bernie Sanders has had some things that he has not been specific enough about, and I understand that and I can empathize with that. but really there aren't very many political candidates that you can find details of their tax plans or energy plans or anything like that. There's always some vagary in a campaign.
Hey, David, the caller just did what you said earlier. He asked, a general question and created some engagement like you were talking about earlier. And see, and that's the thing. That's what we're trying to do, because we're not going to agree on everything. And we're definitely not going to disagree on everything unless we are intentionally doing it. And if we are intentionally doing things like that, we're not trying to move forward, because I believe that everybody that I know, they want crime to be less. Okay, they want to make an honest living and keep everybody, the government specifically, out of their business. So they want people that don't deserve, government assistance to be milking the system, so forth and so on. I think the problem is how you actually get there. And I think what the caller is asking pretty much is that Ken Sanders realistically explain what it is that he's talking about, so those numbers can look real, because we all know from math in high school, you can play with numbers and make them look whatever way you want them to look. And I think the caller had a very valid question. I thank the caller for calling in. Is there any other caller that's out there who would like to engage in the conversation tonight with anything that may be going on in their mind, in their area, whatever the case may be?
I'd like to ask a question. You mentioned make an honest living.
Mm-hmm.
Coal mining and honest living is mining coal and honest living.
Mm-hmm. Is mining coal an honest living? I'll tell you, I'm not from that particular area. I think I know where your question is going. I think if there is a legitimate business that's out there, and this legitimate business is not corrupt in a sense, or corrupting populations and things like that, or if it can be regulated or restricted. I think coal mining is just as good as individuals working in a factory. Coal mining is just as good as my job working in a DA's office and being elected. I think coal mining brings an honest living for a lot of people in certain areas, and I think in those certain areas there should be restrictions that could allow these things to move forward rather than cut those jobs out. I think I know where you're going, and I hope I answered your question.
So do you support global warming?
Do I support global warming? I think there is a such thing as global warming. Yes.
Man-made global warming?
Yes. Yes. I think that certain things have taken place over the years, and as a result of not being adequately equipped with all of these things, I think rather than just 100% throw it to the side. Let me just put it this way. I think it's worth a conversation for people of like minds to sit down and talk about these things. And at the end of the day, whatever the conclusion is based on the majority of those in that room, I think that should be what a consensus. If people disagree with that, they have a right to do that. But to just disrupt it because you don't believe in it, I think that can create a potential problem. What do you think, David?
Well, I'm a bit more harsh on the subject. It's not that I believe in climate change or not. The evidence points that man-made global climate change is real, and we can't deny that. The consensus is overwhelming. The evidence has been building for 150 years. We have studies that have gone back as far as 150 years concerning the idea of CO2 being released in the atmosphere. We know what it looks like. We have historical evidence, and we have current modeling. So as it comes with the coal industry, the coal jobs are valid jobs. I have no problem with people doing jobs like that. But at some point, we have to sit here and look at the data and go, we have to make a change. Now, the same kinds of things happen all throughout history. As automation started accumulating in the textile industry, people had to change jobs. They had to learn different jobs. The same thing with buggy whip makers and blacksmiths. They had to learn new jobs, and they had to expand for the automobile. And the same thing is going to happen to the fossil fuel industry. We're going to have to transition people into other types of fields.
But you didn't have a whole country revolved around buggy makers. like you do coal?
We did back in the day. We certainly did, and I've talked with you about this before.
Okay. Any other callers out there? Caller, thank you for calling. Any other callers? David, I'll tell you before we go, once again, let me give you the option and opportunity to give out your information where people can contact you. If the caller's still out there and he's got some contact information on Twitter, Facebook, or whatever that he'd like people to engage with him, caller, you can give that information out as well, because our goal is to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity to be heard. So if you got any information, you can put it out at this time. I believe caller may be gone. Go ahead, David. Give your information out.
All right. Well, my YouTube channel is called Screams from the Center. Search for the channel. There will be some other videos that would pop up, but the channel's name is Screams from the Center. I also have a blog. Oftentimes I'm just posting my videos, but I do occasionally comment on there, and that website is screamsfromthecenter.wordpress.com. You can find me on Twitter at ScreamsFT Center, Screams from the Center, and my email is also screamsfromthecenter@outlook.com. These are all areas on Facebook as well, Screams from the Center.
And I'll tell you, David, they can also catch you on Blab live video. You get a chance to see this big, huge guy with this very mild-mannered voice. He's really into what he's doing. David and I met on Blab, and we've been hitting it off ever since. I really do like his perspective. He does bring balance. He's never out of line. If he's got a position, he takes that position. He does it in a respectful manner. And I think those that's in the United States Congress and the United States Senate can learn from people like David, the caller, because, see, we all can have a conversation. And whether we agree or disagree, we still can walk away the same way we were before we came into the conversation. And I just like to say, I thank everybody for out there listening, whether you're listening on Spreaker.com, whether you're listening on TuneIn, whether you're listening on iTunes, whether you're listening on the www.thesmokingglashour.wordpress.com website, or wherever you may be. Thanks for listening in. David, you are welcome back here. I'm sitting here thinking I might want David to come on and co-host with me a lot because you dig into those topics. I dig into when I have time. Most of the time I'm driving and texting when I probably shouldn't, but I'm out there doing things. I want people to get involved, even if they disagree with me. I want them to have courage. And if there's something that we can do at the Smoking Glass Hour to encourage people, inspire people, to get them engaged in the political process, please feel free to reach out to us at www.thesmokingglasshour.wordpress.com. You can go to the contact tab and put in your information. The administrative assistant will get in contact with you and set you up. David, you always got a seat at the table of love here. I want you to come back. We're going to be getting in contact with you, because if you're available next Thursday, because we're going to start talking about these caucuses. Sunday night, we may even come on live Blab video, and let's talk about the caucus if we have time, and let's get it in. Let's get people involved, and let's turn this country around, or get it going in a better direction. Mr. David Lamont tonight getting politically active with his 5-point plan. David, thanks for calling in.
Thank you very much. You have a great evening now.
Okay. Do we have Miss Laura Rockemore out there on the line? She was supposed to call in and give us some information on the program, the Black History program that's taking place February 13th, 2015, in Columbia, Louisiana. I have Mr. Robert Stevenson, who was the campaign manager, I believe, for Ms. Tawana Cadian, who's running for Congress out there in Texas. And Robert had provided some information. I can't really read it right now because, here we go. Scott Gallagher, Democrat candidate running for Texas Congressional District 10. He don't know why he's a Democrat, and then I should be a Republican. It's easy to be a Republican in Texas. I asked Robert about, thanks for sharing the information. He got endorsed by Mr. Gallagher, I believe that's how you pronounce it, got endorsed by NXNW Austin Democrats. Of course, we know that Ms. Tawana Cadian is a friend of the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We brought her on live on the program back a couple of years ago. I believe she's over there now on Blog Talk Radio doing her own thing. But regardless as to where she is or where she's at, we send her regards. We hope that she's successful in her run for the position of United States Congress, hailing out of the state of Texas by way of Houston to Austin, Texas area. So we're going to end this broadcast by saying we hope that David was able to provide some information to those out there listening. We hope that we can inspire and encourage you to get involved and become a part of the movement, the revolution. But at the end of the day, when the smoke clear and the dust settle, we hope that you go out and make a difference. You've been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on tonight, talking getting politically active with his 5-point plan, Mr. David Lamont. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful night. Good evening.